right. Well, how is everyone feeling today? All right, really good. It's not just a happy hour, but you definitely don't want to miss this fireside chat, right?
Could be the best one.
Yes, Raj is an iconic figure, really poster child for exceptional immigrant entrepreneurs. So
Thank you.
Really honored to have you here. And he has actually given me permission to make this a little dicey and spicy and raw. So we will have a real conversation that is unfiltered. Yes,
Yeah,
fingers
absolutely,
crossed.
yes.
All right, well, I'm going to quickly introduce myself, and we'll also have Raja introduce himself. I like to say I have 3 lives. So I was actually a journalist for CNBC Asia, based out of Seoul, South Korea. And then my second life involved being an immigrant entrepreneur, actually, of an MIT spinoff. We made things like the brain and the gut transparent, so very fun. And my third chapter now is working as a partner for One Way Ventures, of course, the host of today's event, backing exceptional immigrant entrepreneurs, just like Raj. So, Raj, very honored again, and let us know a little bit about you.
Yes, thanks for having me. This is a great event and great cause. Very nice of you to say I'm the poster child. It's me and Elon, right? Pretty much the same. I really enjoyed my journey. Coming. I was originally born in Toronto, Canada. My parents are from India, but I grew up around the world. Spent many years in Abu Dhabi, in the Middle East, and also in the UK. My wife is from China as well, so I have this sort of global background. Came to the US for a PhD at MIT. Ended up dropping out, and I started a couple companies then, which are still around today. So one of them was Rhie, which became Lyft, and the other is Presto, which went public in 22, and that focused on restaurant tech and AI and automation, so like voice AI and drive-thrus and tablets on tables so guests could order and pay from their seats. I left that in 23, and since then I've started 2 new companies. One company is called Tribe, which is a next-generation WhatsApp. It's tribechat.com, where you can find small group chats with people with similar interests as you do, so movies, soccer, whatever it is that you're interested in. And another company is very relevant to my immigration journey, which is Lima. Lima aspires to be the Department of Talent for the United States, addressing talent shortages in the US by bringing the world's best people here. So that's what I'm up to these days. I also have a podcast called Founders in Arms, which, me and Imad Akun, another immigrant founder, we just talk about, the journey of founding companies. Thanks for having me.
Well, Raj, I gotta say, you rank above Elon for me. I use Lyft and Presto more than Tesla, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, well, since you did promise that, we'll keep this quite candid, the political landscape today is not exactly one that's super friendly for immigrant entrepreneurs. So what is your assessment? Because I think there are mixed signals. One day immigrants are perhaps bad, but next they are valuable workers as well. So what is kind of your honest assessment of the landscape, and how do you think immigrant entrepreneurs should navigate this rather thorny and complicated environment?
Yeah, so look, it's never nice to be a political football. You feel kicked around, and I think immigrants are squarely, being tossed around these days. The scapegoat for a lot of things. And unfortunately, the line between illegal immigration and legal immigration has been blurred. A lot of discussion, probably more than I've ever seen before. Unfortunately, there's more and more talk about, hey, we should have fewer legal immigrants in the country, which really has not been unacceptable or like something that most people agreed with for a long, long time in the U.S. It's still, the majority of Americans still don't agree with that, but you're seeing more senior political figures, including the vice president, talk about that a lot more these days, which has never happened before. So you're definitely seeing some headwinds for immigrants, but I think the fundamentals, the fundamental benefits of coming to the U.S. are still the same. You still, this is the best place in the world to start companies. This is the best place in the world to build companies. You have the world's best talent here. So I think the value proposition for an immigrant to be here is as high as ever, if not higher, the highest it's ever been. And I think an immigrant needs to think about it like, this too shall pass when it comes to the political climate. We're in a country where every 4 years the direction can change, sometimes very dramatically. And I think for immigrants, they just need to ride this out. They need to survive. And one thing immigrants are really good at is surviving. So, I think consider this a test. And, if you're going to found a company, there's going to be many, many challenges. If you're going to build a groundbreaking new startup, there's going to be many challenges. So just consider this another challenge. And, if you're savvy and you're smart, you'll navigate this and you'll have stories to tell like I will, like I do. So I have many of my own stories to tell about my journey. So it'll be a badge of honor at some point.
We'll have a lot of great underdog tales for sure, right? So in terms of silver linings, because after the cloudy, rainy days come silver linings, what do you think may be waiting for immigrant entrepreneurs? And for those that actually bet and invest in immigrant entrepreneurs, what do you think could be a potential upside?
Look, I think it's always good to bet on immigrant entrepreneurs. You can close your eyes and just bet on immigrant entrepreneurs and actually end up making good decisions because, there's actually economic theories behind this. It's animal spirits. It's people who have the motivation to come all the way, uproot their lives, and come base themselves here, they're more likely to be successful in everything they do. So I think, it's always a good time to bet on immigrant entrepreneurs. I think you should be aware, though, of the headwinds, of the short-term headwinds, and build in a smart way, and try to make sure that you have good partners to help you on the legal side, and whatever challenge that you need to go through. But overall, it's always a good time to bet on immigrant entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's reassuring. And in terms of your personal journey, right? Your immigration experience has not exactly been the smoothest sail, given that your TN was rejected, and then you also had a couple of other mountains to climb after that. So how do you think that has shaped you as an entrepreneur?
I think it made me tougher. It made me more scrappy. I had no shortages. Starting a company is always challenging, and I had extra layers of challenge to deal with. As an immigrant, I was yelled at the border. I was pulled over for secondary many times. It was post 9/11 climate, and rejected several different times for my visas. It eventually, obligated me to get really deep in the immigration system and really understand how everything works. I built a bunch of connections with immigration advocates and people who are really waving the flag for skilled talent, and supporting their pathways to come to the U.S. And I became an advocate myself. I mean, once I got my own visa and green card, I didn't want to shut the door behind me, which unfortunately some immigrants do. They like to shut the door, once they're in. No, but I want to help others, with their journeys as well. And I want to help the United States. As a proud American now, I want to help the United States benefit from the world's best talent, and address all the shortages and shortcomings that we have here in this country. I think it's, the president has said recently, in an interview that, the talented immigrants do add value. They can help train, folks here. And, we have talent here in the country, but not the same type of talent. And, we have, you can have great baseball players here, but you still have Shohei Ohtani, who's coming from a different country. And he himself, can raise the level of people here, of the baseball players here. And I think it's the same in tech. Immigrants coming here raise the level of everyone here. And the second we start to shut them out, that's the second where our own standards start to drop. And we can't let that happen if we want to be, continue to be the world's most exceptional country standing for the future.
So we certainly raised the bar, right? And I think we all have a chip on the shoulder, for sure. And you've seen so many immigrant entrepreneurs, but what do you think sets us truly apart from the rest?
So I think what makes the U.S. unique is, we have the best concentration of talent, and that talent by itself, you have a network effect that can't be beat. All the best people are here, so all the best people want to come here. And then you also have, I think, the beauty of America is the Constitution. It's a document that protects individual rights to an extent that no other country has been able to match. And you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of practice, freedom of how you run your business. That freedom ultimately is what protects us from all sorts of government intervention and allows us to build the future. And in the US, there's always this battle between like more regulation or less regulation, but the less regulation is actually kind of more enshrined in the Constitution. And everyone in the country, pledges their fealty to the Constitution as this kind of document. So America is really built on this idea that outlasts is greater than any one of us. And that idea is what all these people have come to support, is this idea that you can build whatever you like, and you have this competition of ideas within the country, and you have this destructive capitalism. I would say productively destructive capitalism that exists here, where you have a bunch of different ideas competing and the best one wins, and that's just not possible in other countries. They tend to be more centrally planned, or they tend to have much more government interference, which ends up being to their detriment.
And in this, I guess, hyper competitive or, as you mentioned, capitalistic environment, how do the immigrants excel? Like, what are their key unique strengths?
So the immigrants who come here, who uproot their life, I mean, they have the key ingredient of an entrepreneur, which is courage, and it's not intelligence. Intelligence is not the key ingredient of an entrepreneur. I mean, there's so many smart people, probably we went to college with, that didn't end up as entrepreneurs. And you really need to be very brave, and you need to be able to take a punch, to be a good entrepreneur. And it's an ingredient that's in short supply around the world, and the immigrants are self-selecting for that. They're self-selecting for people who are brave, who can take punches, who are scrappy, and can figure out solutions. And so I think that's why they disproportionately tend to outperform, is because they're already self-selected for that trait.
Right, so we have the gung-ho, brave, and intelligent immigrant entrepreneurs here. But what are some of the weaknesses that you have seen as a pattern? Is it cultural? Is it systematic resource, mindset?
I think, look, there's most immigrants are very open-minded, and they embrace their new culture. But you couldn't sometimes see the mindset of not embracing the new culture enough. But I think the ones that succeed are all very open-minded, and they can assimilate very well into the new culture. So I don't see a ton of weaknesses. I mean, I think there's most immigrants, people who make it for longer than just a little bit of time, eventually learn to adapt, and you have to be able to adapt, otherwise you're going to end up going back home.
So my next question was going to be, how do you overcome those weaknesses? But since we don't really have weaknesses, I guess we overcome with time, right? I guess, yes. My next question is, it is true that immigrants don't have as much of a safety net, right? So we have to kind of adapt with a survival instinct, mindset, and also our decision-making principles, right? So in your kind of journey with crisis, with uncertainty, how did those things play out for you?
Yeah, there's much less of a safety net for sure. I think that's a good thing for founders and people working on startups, because it really focuses you on being successful and like finding paths to be successful. I think if there's too much of a safety net, sometimes this is why you see startups who raise too much money fail in many cases. They start being wasteful, and they start spending resources on things that they don't need to. But what startups who have less money actually tend to be a lot more focused, actually go faster. It's counterintuitive, but it's true. And immigrants too. I mean, failure is not an option. So they have to succeed, and they'll find a way to succeed, and they'll try everything they need to succeed. So I mean, when I started, I had I started Presto in 2008, and that in the middle of the great financial crisis. And we had raised 100,000 or less. That was considered a big round back then, and I was paying myself 15,000 a year. So I was on less than like the poverty line, I remember what I did back then. I would like buy a little bit of Thai food and like portion it over like 5 meals, right? And but for me, I was still living the dream, so I was enjoying that. Maybe somebody who is from here won't enjoy that. It won't be part of what they really want to do. But for me, it was like, oh, I'm getting a chance to take a swing. So immigrants are willing to take more pain, and I think that's a good thing.
We're disciplined, but we consider it a privilege as well. So, wow. Okay. All right. And you've truly kind of transformed the restaurant operations and mobility industries. Do you think your outsider lens or perspective actually helped with that?
I think so. I think they're both part of the same thing. I don't know what came first. Maybe my ability to look at things and come up with some ideas maybe also makes me a better immigrant, or being an immigrant helps me be a better founder. I think they're both part of the same personality traits. I think you have to be able to look at things and say, well, there's different ways of doing things, right? And one thing about living in different countries like I have is that you realize there are different ways to solve problems. And different countries have different ways to solve problems. So, once you have that lens, global lens, you can actually see things and say, well, this doesn't need to be the way it is. And you don't see problems maybe as intractable as other people might see it. Other folks might be just say, no, this is the way it's always been. But you might see, no, it can be different. Other people have made it differently. So I think that helps.
And let's talk about your newest venture, Lima and Tribe. So Lima is a platform that is dedicated to helping immigrant entrepreneurs and just immigrants really kind of navigate the U.S. system, right? So what inspired you to do this, and what's kind of interesting and different about this platform?
Yeah, so Lima is an organization geared towards helping skilled immigrants come to the U.S., and we aspire to be the Department of Talent for the United States. It's kind of shocking that there's no one's job in the U.S. government to bring the world's best talent to the U.S. There's not a single person who has that role. There's like hundreds of thousands of people in the government, and no one's job is to bring in the world's best talent. But as a CEO of several companies, I know it's my job always to bring in best talent to my companies. So why is there no one's job in the U.S. government to think about bringing the world's talent here? And the U.S. should have a Department of Talent, but it doesn't. And in lieu of that, private companies have to step up. And so Lima aspires to be that private company that can, addresses talent shortages in the U.S. by scouring the world for great talent and recruiting them to come here. So, we have active global operations looking for people, great people in every domain, AI research, energy technologies, quantum computing, whatever it is, even, mechanical type roles, which are in short supply, could qualify. And we find them and we connect them with shortages here in the U.S. And so that's one big thing we do. We also help people who are here already, struggling in some way, stuck in the immigration system in some way. Unfortunately, in the U.S., our immigration system has not been overhauled in many, many years, decades. And it's, we're living in a relic of the past. The parties can't agree on fixing it. They use it as a political football while not actually trying to solve the political football, because they don't want that political opportunity to go away. So they rather just campaign on the issue and not actually solve it. And so, that means private institutions have to step up and find ways to solve it. And so that's kind of what Lima is focused on. And then the other thing I'm working on is very different, but it's also helping people. It's Tribe. And Tribe is building small communities, intimate group chats about shared interests that people may have. So what we notice is that group chats can be like dinner parties, that extend over long periods of time. So you can, dinner parties are great. You get to really know other people. You get to have great conversations. And the great thing about group chats is that you can have them any time and place. So it's kind of, it's completely divorced from time and space. It's asynchronous. And so you can have great conversations over long periods of time with people who have the same interests that you do and get to know them as well. So you get closer to your interest and you get closer to other people who share that interest. And our goal with Tribe is that we hope that you find a community or a tribe for every one of your interests. You have multiple facets to your background. I have multiple facets to my background, right? You were mentioning earlier you were born in Korea, right? And I know that you started a company. You also went to MIT Sloan, and I have many aspects. I'm a parent. I like movies. I like soccer. So I'd like a tribe for every one of my interests, and you should have a tribe for every one of your interests. And our goal is that everyone here will have a tribe for every one of their interests, and that will make them feel more fulfilled as a human being and connect with others who are have the same interest. In a world of AI, what is more important than connecting with actual humans?
Sure.
And so tribechat.com, check it out. Let me know what you think.
So is there one for immigrants as well?
There is one for immigrants. There's one for immigration allies as well. That's a private tribe, so you'll have to message me on the app to get in. But it's not discover. You can discover many tribes, but you can't discover that one. So just message me on the app when you join, and I'll let you in if you qualify. So, I think that's for people who care about advancing the immigration state, and then there's one other one for immigrants. So, yeah, would love to see you on there.
I would definitely sign up for K-pop and Bhangra music. Yes.
Yes.
Moving on to my next question, which is actually a pretty deep one. But when was your darkest day during your immigration and entrepreneurship journey, and what lessons have you learned?
Yes, I think the darkest day was when I was rejected for TN at the Toronto airport, and I was yelled at by the officer who threatened to ban me from the U.S. Forever, like they can do a forever ban. And I think, at that point I'd raised millions of dollars. I had 30 people working for me in the U.S., based in Palo Alto, and there was no visa for entrepreneurs. I mean, back then, O visas were not common. No one got O visas. So right now, a lot of entrepreneurs get O. This is 2011 or something, and it was very rare for entrepreneurs to even get that. In fact, being an entrepreneur itself was very rare, back then. So there was no easy path for someone to become an entrepreneur. And what people used to do back then is that once they had some massive rejection or some kind of thing for a visa, they used to go to the press. So they actually had to have a Wall Street Journal article published about their case, and then someone would forward that Wall Street Journal article to the director of the USCIS, and they would manually approve them. That was the way to get approved as an entrepreneur. And this, so you can see kind of how broken the system is broken now. It was even more broken back then, for at least a founder. So, but that was a very difficult time because you realize my whole existence, all my career plans, everything could just blow up in smoke on the behest of one person. At the border, right? A person who knows nothing about what I do, and has no background and doesn't even know what a founder is. So that feels your life feels very fragile at that moment.
And what lesson did you learn?
Well, for me, it was I need to get smart on immigration. So I had to go really deep on it, and I couldn't let it be a problem again. So I got really smart on it. After a couple more rejections, I eventually, wrote my own kind of O1 application. Got 12 different reference letters, including from Paul Graham and some other great, people. And I got my O1, and then the next day I applied for my green card. The very next day, I didn't wait at all. And, I just couldn't leave it to chance anymore. I needed to figure this out. And now, the lesson is I got to help others. I can't. I'm not going to shut the door. I'm not going to let what happened to me happen to others. I got to help others. So that's what that was for me.
And hence Lima, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. And, I think immigrant entrepreneurs tend to excel at technical things. We all know that. Top AI companies in the US, 65% of them are actually co-founded by immigrant entrepreneurs. So what do you think the trajectory looks like for immigrant entrepreneurs in deep tech, AI, robotics for the next decade?
Look, I think immigrants excel at adapting. And also, I would hope that immigrants don't just go with the flow. So they can take decisions which are contrarian, including leaving their country when probably the whole family wants them to stay, right? And that means not always going with what's popular, but making the right long-term bet, making a smart, pragmatic bet. And, you know, Silicon Valley is always full of, you know, trends, right? They're full of like, hey, this is popular now, this is popular then. I think that one big mistake entrepreneurs sometimes make is what's going to get funded? You know, like, well, what idea can I put together that's going to get funded? But actually, an entrepreneur should make the decision of like, hey, what is going to be a good, solid business? One of my favorite set of founders is Sanjit Biswas and John Bickett from Samsara, who, you know, basically focused on one market and built solutions for that market. I think it was like a fleet management or trucking. And they basically built a suite of solution technology around their needs. And that company is one of the fastest growing companies ever, and still, you know, it's a public company now, IoT. And so, you know, I think immigrants need to do that type of thing, because that, no matter what's the trend, I mean, they built this company when IoT was already out of fashion, like Internet of Things were already out of fashion, and they don't just grab a technology because it's popular. You got to do it because it makes sense for the user. So, I think that's what I would hope for all immigrants, is that they take a long-term approach, and you know that makes sense, not just because others are doing it.
So solve a true problem.
Yes.
A lasting problem.
Yeah.
Okay, great. My final question is one regarding your children, your lovely children, and their future. I think we grew up listening to, hearing the word American dream a lot. Does that still make sense? And do you want your children to be building their life in the U.S.?
Absolutely. I think still the U.S. is the best place to build a career, build a life. You know, we have a lot of issues as a country, but it's a country worth fighting for. You know, as I said, the Constitution is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful idea. It's incredible to think about it. Like 250 years ago, people came together in a room and came up with something that would last this long. And you know, we're constantly fighting for that future. You know, there are people who have different opinions. You know, for what the future could be. But you know, it's something that's worth fighting for, because if you do it well, you know, you can build the technology of the future. And I think ultimately that's what really creates the wealth of the future, is the technologies that we build. You know, I came up here on a Waymo on the freeway, you know, and you know, that's going to be everywhere soon. And there's all sorts of other great things that are being built here in the U.S. that will continue to be built. You know, I've known Sam Altman for a long time, you know, even well before he started OpenAI, and it's great to see what he built there as well. So like these like, you know, innovations, you know, really originate here. We often build them here, and other countries copy us. And so, as an engine of growth, as an engine of our technology future, the U.S. is still the best place. And for my kids, that's the message I'll have for them: is like, you work hard, you can do well in this country. That's always been true, and that will continue to be true.
Well, thank you so much. But can I squeeze in one last question, because we still have 2 minutes? Yes. Okay. So if you know, there was an immigrant founder who bought their one-way ticket and is coming over here, what would be the one advice you provide them, given your years of experience, knowledge, and instinct?
I think the advice I would have for any immigrant coming here is that, like, you know, really get to know American culture really well, so that you can excel here. I mean, I think Americans act differently than other countries. We tend to work harder, we tend to move faster, we tend to be very to the point of, like, you know, get down to brass tacks for, you know, what it takes to be successful on the business side. I would say be honest. You know, Americans pride integrity and honesty, and you know, sometimes that's not valued in other cultures as much. And I would also say, like, you know, whatever you learn, be prepared to unlearn it, because sometimes there's other cultures which are much more risk averse. And most cultures are more risk averse than the U.S., right? And one thing I'm still learning is how to actually embrace risk more. You know, like even me as an entrepreneur, you think, wow, this guy takes so many risks, blah, blah, blah. But I probably could do even more. I mean, the people I admire, people like Sam and you know, other folks, they're actually constantly taking risks. They're constantly swinging. They're constantly failing. And they keep yet they keep succeeding as well. And so that's something that's really native to the United States culture. It's a country of immigrants. It's a country of people who've come here and take a big risk for their life, and then they take big risks in business and technology as well. And to do really well here, you got to have that same ethos. And so something I always remind myself, I look at other people and I'm like, man, I want to take risks like Elon, right? I want to take risks like these types of people. It seems scary. It seems crazy to other people. But that's actually what ends up getting you making real progress. Progress for them, but also progress for the country.
Well, Raj, thank you so much for your vision, your mission, and all the things that you are doing for immigrants and the entrepreneurs here. Give a round of applause for Raj.